My name is Ava Mitchell. I'm 28 years old, and the night my father threw my life onto the lawn, I had just finished a 12-hour shift helping keep a burned Labrador alive. I still smelled like antiseptic and wet fur when I pulled into the driveway and saw my duffel bag split open in the grass, my scrubs tangled around a broken lamp, my winter coat half in the flower bed, and a box of childhood photos dumped upside down like trash. He was standing there in the porch light with his phone up, actually recording me, like humiliating his daughter was content. My mother stood behind him with her arms folded tight across her chest. My sister laughed, nudged one of my tote bins with her sneaker, and sent a stack of framed certificates sliding into the street. "You're 28, my father barked, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "You suck us dry like a goddamn vampire. I want you gone tonight." The people across the street were sitting on their porch, pretending not to stare, but they didn't miss a second. I looked at the phone, pointed at my face, and smiled straight into the camera. Have you ever been called a parasite by the people who were supposed to love you most? Because in that exact moment, something inside me went cold. I loaded every last thing into my car without crying, without begging, without giving them the scene they wanted. Then I walked up to all three of them and said very quietly, "Hope you all sleep good tonight, because one day none of you are going to sleep at all." Before I tell you what he said next and what happened after I drove away, tell me, what time is it for you right now, and where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. I didn't go to a friend's house first. I didn't sit in some parking lot sobbing either. I drove 3 exits south, parked behind a 24-hour gas station, and listened to the voice memo I'd accidentally recorded while I was gathering my things. My father yelling, my sister laughing, my mother saying, "Just let her go, Daniel. She brought this on herself." I replayed it 3 times, not because I enjoyed it, because I needed to hear it clearly enough to never rewrite it later into something softer. Families like mine survive by making you doubt your own memory. By morning, they would have called it a misunderstanding. By next week, they would have said I was dramatic. By Christmas, they would have told everyone I stormed out over nothing. But the recording didn't lie. I spent that first night in an extended stay motel with a flickering bathroom light, 2 vending machine granola bars, and one hard roll. I was never going back. Around 1:30 a.m., my phone lit up with 6 missed calls, then 11 messages, then 20. My father demanded to know where I was. My mother said I was acting unstable. My sister sent, "LOL, have fun paying for your own everything." I didn't answer any of them. I took screenshots, made a folder, and named it "When They Start Lying." Maybe that sounds petty, but when people humiliate you in public, documentation is not pettiness, it's armor. The next morning, I called the only person I trusted to tell the truth, even when it hurt. Ethan Cole, the paramedic I'd met 2 years earlier bringing a seizing beagle into the ER at 3 a.m. Ethan knew and opened with pity. He said, "Tell me exactly what happened. No protecting them." So I did. Every word, every look, every little piece of theater my father staged for the neighborhood. Ethan went silent for a second, then asked, "If they called you tonight crying, would you go back?" I stared at the motel curtain and surprised myself with how fast the answer came. "No." "Good," he said. "Then stop acting like this is a breakup you might fix. This is a fire you finally walked out of." That landed hard because he was right. I hadn't been evicted from a loving home. I had escaped a system built on shame. Over burnt coffee in the motel lobby, I opened my photo gallery and deleted every family selfie where I'd been smiling too hard. Birthdays, barbecues, Christmas mornings, that fake normal I'd spent years performing. Then I started looking for rooms to rent, extra shifts, and any opening that would move me closer to the certification program I'd put off for 3 years, because my father kept saying serious careers are for kids who finish what they start. I was already finishing more than he ever saw, saving animals, holding strangers together in the middle of the night, paying half their groceries when my mother forgot her card. And suddenly, I understood something ugly. They hadn't kicked me out because I was weak. They kicked me out because I'd stopped being useful in the way they liked. Have you ever driven away shaking so hard you could barely grip the wheel, but smiling anyway, because deep down you knew the people who mocked you had just made the worst mistake of their lives? I did, and 10 days later, they proved me right. By day 3, I had a weekly rate at the motel, 2 extra overnight shifts at the animal hospital, and exactly $341 left after gas, food, and storage. It should have terrified me more than it did. Instead, I felt weirdly clear. No one was slamming cabinets because I came home late from work. No one was keeping score of how many showers I took. No one was calling me selfish for buying my own protein bars while my sister ordered takeout on my mother's card. At the hospital, chaos made sense. A hit-by-car shepherd came in at 2 a.m., and I moved on instinct. Steady hands, clean lines, no panic. My supervisor, Dr. Laura Hayes, noticed. At the end of the shift, she said, "Savannah, you're already doing the work of someone who should be in our advanced surgical track. Why haven't you applied?" I almost laughed, because what was I supposed to say? That I'd spent years trapped in a house where ambition was treated like betrayal if it didn't benefit everybody else first. Instead, I said, "Bad timing." She looked me dead in the eye and replied, "Then maybe it's finally good timing." That same afternoon, Ethan met me outside a diner near the freeway. He slid a yellow legal pad across the table. On it, he'd written 3 things: housing, certification, boundaries. "These are your only priorities," he said. "Not defending yourself, not explaining yourself, not chasing closure." He challenged me again. Say your father shows up crying, your mother says she's sick with worry, your sister says the family is falling apart. What do you do? I stirred my coffee and said, "I let it fall apart." Ethan gave one short nod, like I had finally spoken the language of survival. We made a plan. I applied for the hospital's surgical technician certification pathway. I found a room above a retired mechanic's garage, owned by a widow named Mrs. Parker, who charged fair rent and asked no invasive questions beyond whether I smoked or had pets. Then I did something that felt small, but mattered more than I expected. I changed my emergency contact from my mother to Ethan. It was one tap on a phone, but it felt like cutting a wire. Meanwhile, the messages from home shifted tone. My father stopped calling me lazy and started asking where the car title paperwork was. My mother wanted to know if I'd moved anything important. My sister texted, "Do you have the login to the utility portal?" There it was. No concern, no apology, just inconvenience. That's when I realized my disappearance had not created grief in that house first. It had created labor. I had been the one who handled the dog's medication refills, the online bill payments, the grocery pickup orders for my mother, and the pharmacy runs when my father was too tired after work. I wasn't a burden. I was unpaid infrastructure. Once I saw that, the whole family story collapsed. By the end of that week, I moved into Mrs. Parker's garage apartment with 2 duffel bags, a folding chair, and a mattress off Facebook Marketplace. The place smelled faintly like sawdust and old paint. It was perfect. On my first night there, I sat on the floor eating takeout lo mein from the carton, surrounded by unpacked boxes, and listened to silence. Real silence. Not the loaded kind before an argument, not the fake peaceful kind where everybody was one comment away from blood. Actual silence. My phone buzzed again. My father, "This whole little stunt has gone far enough." My sister, "Dad is pissed because you didn't pay Mom's car insurance reminder and now she got a late fee." I laughed out loud, not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. The people who threw my belongings in the yard were now discovering how much of their adult life had quietly rested on the daughter they called useless. And for the first time since I drove away, revenge didn't look like screaming back. It looked like absence. It looked like letting them feel every ounce of the work I used to absorb. Then I gave them the only thing I was willing to give, the truth without comfort. I'm not coming back. I'm not fixing your house. I'm not stepping into that role again. What happened to you after I left is not something I did to you. It's what was already there when I stopped carrying it. Nobody argued, not even Daniel, because he knew. My sister wiped her face and whispered, "I'm sorry." This time I believed she meant it. My mother opened her mouth like she wanted to ask for more, a visit, a phone call, some soft promise that this was temporary. But I spared her. "Maybe one day we can talk," I said. "But it won't be because you need me to make things easier. It'll be because you learned how not to treat me like I'm disposable." Then Dr. Lara Hayes called my name from the next table, and I turned back to work. That was the ending they deserved. Not me collapsing into their arms, not a perfect reunion, not a cruel speech for applause. Just me choosing my own life in front of them while they understood, maybe for the first time, that they were no longer the center of it. Later, when the event was ending and the park had started to empty, I stood alone by my car and opened the old recording from the night on the lawn. My father's voice, my sister's laugh, my mother's silence. I listened for 5 seconds, then deleted it. Not because they deserved mercy, because I didn't need the proof anymore. The consequences had already arrived. My father had become a man people looked at differently. My sister had learned too late that cruelty done for family approval still counts as cruelty. My mother had discovered that neutrality in abuse is not innocence. And me? I learned the hardest thing of all. Sometimes leaving your family is not betrayal. Sometimes it is the only way to save yourself and force them to face what they are without you there to absorb it. I used to think family was forever, no matter what. Now I think love that only exists when you stay small isn't love at all. If they only value the obedient version of you, the useful version of you, the silent version of you, then walking away may be the first honest thing you ever do. And here's the question I want to leave with you. Would you be brave enough to leave the people who keep calling your suffering love? Or are you still enduring it because you're afraid of being called ungrateful?